All right, man. It's time. We're here. We made it. It's the final. USA, Brazil. Couple of heavyweights. And your boy's got a couple keys to the game that I kind of want to unleash here. So I've got a few. I'm sure you've got a couple. You got to have at least a couple. So let's just kind of table tennis this thing back and forth. I want to hear what you think is going to ultimately be the deciding factor in this one. And I've got a few sort of biggies that I think are going to be kind of make or break that I would love to see happen. So my first key to the game, Lindsey Horan. So obviously the captain, we could have definitely used a finish from Horan in this one. And she's kind of been getting closer and then farther and then closer and farther. It's been sort of an up and down tournament so far. Against Canada, she had 3 really clean looks at headers. And obviously, considering the conditions, those would have been fucking massive. Yep. You know, like I felt it when the Shaw goal went in. I'm like, oh, okay, this one's finishing 1-0. And it almost did. I think we were like 10 minutes shy of getting to that finish line. So a second goal would have just slammed the door shut, I think, considering 38th minute, 50th minute, 102nd minute. She gets 3 really good looks. Didn't get particularly close on any of them. Now, to beat Brazil, who, I mean, their firepower feels like it could be a little bit overwhelming. We talked about just how many different offensive weapons they can put forward when they want to. You look at that Antonio goal and you're just like, okay, your right back is doing that. Mm-hmm. That's scary. We're going to really need something from Lindsey Horan in this one, whether it's an assist or 2 or a big time goal in a big time spot. You know, we saw her do it in the World Cup against the Netherlands in a massive spot after the little tiff with Van de Donk in a match that we were down in, you know, and I think we didn't score out. So that was the one goal in that match also. So to me, Lindsey Horan, that's my first key.
I love it. Keys to the game. My goodness, we're talking about keys to the game. This is sports radio nirvana. I know you enjoyed it growing up. I enjoyed it growing up, and then we enjoyed it less as we got older and kind of saw some of the bad parts of it. But man, in the words of a great Atlanta-based poet, I got the keys, if you want to talk about the keys to the game. I mean, come on. We're talking about keys to the game here.
Let's go.
So, all right. So my first one, I'm going to go with Jaden Shaw. And I agree with you on Horan, by the way. Let me just, I won't gloss over that. I like Horan as the veteran starter who has to kind of carry the load, steady everybody. I mean, this is going to be some players' first, like very, very important national team final. She's going to have to be a calming presence there. I do think Jaden Shaw has been the USA's breakout star in this tournament. Mm-hmm. She can put a bow on that on Sunday. If she is decisive in the final third, if she is key to the link-up play to kind of help get the attack started, I think she could help do some things that will kind of lead into one of my other keys of the game. That's what you call keys to the game tease in sports radio, I believe.
Keys tease.
Exactly. So we're going to go, my first key, Jaden Shaw, young player, could do something to make an absolute name for herself, even more so than she's already done.
I really like that one. Quick clarifier on Horan. I think she's got to do more than be the veteran calming presence in the game. I think she actually has to produce.
I like it.
Not saying that, and I'm not doing this fucking stupid sports radio, you know, like, no, I'm not calling out Lindsey Horan. She's fucking awesome.
Clutch Gene?
I don't know if there were Kobe out there. No, I think we're going to just need the goals. We're going to need the goals. We're going to need the assists. And I think she's a go-to player for the U.S. And she's 100% capable. To rephrase, I think it would be tough to win if she doesn't notch a goal or an assist. So she's a key in that sense. So I think she's got to do a little bit more than to just kind of be a calming presence. My second key. So last week, speaking of freezing cold takes, I mentioned that I thought the U.S. was the absolute worst matchup for this Brazilian side. Because I'm like, okay, you know, we could kind of run them down. We can stay pretty close to them, touch tight, if you will. But watching them against Mexico, they were pretty well defended. But Brazil's skills on the ball in tight spaces and one-on-one situations, you just cannot get the ball from them. You know, so I think they'd be glad to kind of like leverage their gravity, have defenders kind of like move closer and closer to them and just kind of set traps against the U.S. So I kind of went from thinking, all right, U.S. might be a bad matchup for Brazil, to kind of thinking if Brazil can commit these 4 attackers that we've mentioned, you know, Nunes, Sampaio, Yasmin, Debinha, you know, Gurma and Davidson are only 2 players. Yeah. We're going to have to, when the ball is on that side of the field, we're going to have to defend as a team like fucking 100% locked in, because it only takes a fraction of a second. And, we talked about it earlier in that Yasmin goal with almost no daylight.
Right.
No discernible advantage on the play. And she's able to do that for their third goal. If the U.S. is not able to stay 100% locked in, kind of come into this one almost like a defensive first mindset, and then look for opportunities to kind of like maybe break and use some of the athleticism. I don't know. I'm going to be really interested to see A, tactically what the game plan is, and B, if we do employ that more defensive strategy, how effective we're going to be kind of like running that, because that hasn't been how we've played in this tournament so far.
I think you're totally right, man. I think the defense is going to have to be there. I'm pretty interested in the idea too that you pose of, is it a defensive first mindset? This is not, and we try to limit the shots we take at the U.S. men's national team. Dino and I have opinions that we've shared off air. Folks can guess, but I think we both agree it's not productive for us to shit on the other team in the federation. But we don't play like the U.S. men's national team because we don't play underdog football. We're the fucking big dogs. There's no underdog. Like
play big dog football.
Yeah, exactly. We've been running this shit for decades. So, but I get what you're saying. When you come up against a team like Brazil and the gap has closed, as we've discussed many times on this podcast, sometimes you have to make that adjustment. You have to pull those levers and say, okay, maybe we're not parking the bus, but maybe we have to come out there with a defensive mindset and then build on a counter from there, which, my good man, actually brings me to both the keys, but I'm just going to go to my next key. Because as I've mentioned, you guys have watched the show. Anybody out there? Dino and I, we don't prepare. We don't know what each other are going to say. We're just out here fucking letting the takes fly.
Let it rip.
But you teed me up perfectly here. You mentioned the defense. Crystal Dunn did not play versus Canada. And they played 120 minutes of football plus PKs. And the preview of the match against Canada, I mentioned how much I liked that back four that we employed versus Colombia. And that was Neiswanger, Germa, Davidson, Fox. And I really do like that back four. I think that's a good mix of physicality, athleticism, Neiswanger being able to come up and hit and play offense, frankly, Fox being able to do the same on the other wing. But I will also say, in my ongoing quest to join the U.S. women's national team coaching staff, it's not against the law to put Crystal Dunn in the lineup. So even if you have those four, hear me out on this. What if you play Dunn in a defensive midfielder role? What if you play Dunn on the wing? We know she can do that. The proof of concept, that's years. We got years of proof of that. She is a goal-scoring wing. She could be a goal-scoring forward if you want her to. She could do anything. She has a historic, phenomenal career. And I do wonder, this might be me being like, I'm looking at my FIFA team spending more time setting my formation and setting my lineup and picking my team than I am actually playing the match. I wonder how much Brazil would be prepared for that look. But I have the utmost confidence that if you're talking about it and thinking about the concepts, if you put Dunn in there, even if you just give her 45 minutes, even if you give her 35 minutes, she could play a big role. So give me my second key, the legend, Crystal Dunn. I want to see her in the match. I want to see her play.
I love this call. This is definitely very much in line with what I think we're going to need.
Yes.
It gives you the opportunity to maybe push Neiswanger up a little bit because, again, she does have those offensive skills. She's a good playmaker. And we saw her score against Colombia. One prediction I can make, I think we're going to see a new lineup, a lineup that we haven't seen yet in this tournament so far. And when you think about possession, and like you mentioned, kind of parking the bus, I'm not really out here campaigning for that, but there are going to be stretches, 3, 4, maybe a 5-minute stretch where the ball is just going to be on our end and Brazil's going to be firing it from every different direction. And I think if we are too aggressive offensively, like if we do have that sort of like closed-minded, big dog mentality, we could be down 2-0 after 11 or 12 minutes. Yeah. Brazil is just that good, that potent, that dangerous. So I would definitely love to see kind of like more of like a chess match style early, feel it out. Let's play responsible. Let's kind of look for some opportunities. And then when the game does, swing back towards our goal and now we're on the front foot, we obviously do our thing that way. but I don't think we can come out and be like, just impose our will on this game, because that Brazil side is fucking loaded. And again, I was just really impressed by how well they were able to control the ball under pressure and still create space, give the player with the ball outlets to pass. It just seemed like no matter how hard Mexico was trying, there was just 2 or 3 places to go with the ball at any given moment. And that's a credit to like just the football IQ, the spacing, the movement. And that's going to be just really tough to deal with if we don't have the right mindset coming in. That leads me, go ahead.
Okay, you've inspired me. I'm going to throw it out there. Here we go.
Extra key?
Not an extra key, but we've talked about it. Okay, lineup. So we're going to go same back 4. We're going to go Neiswanger, Gurma, Davidson, and Fox. That's our back 4. Our 2 defensive holding midfielders. Let's play Dunn and Sonnet. So that gets us to 6 players. Our midfield, we're going to put, obviously, Haran has to be the number 10. And let's put out there on the wings, let's play Rodman and Williams. And then at number 9, let's play fucking Jaden Shaw. And that way, now we have a defensive look, but players who can still play forward, players who can go forward, and players who can hold the ball. This is off the dome here.
I like it. And this is a great segue into my third and final key.
Let's go.
Part key, part question. With how the vets have looked in this tournament, right? So we talked about kind of like a resurgent Alex Morgan, gets that gritty goal, to kind of get them on the board against Colombia. Really good playmaking, kind of like moving away from the heliocentric, all right, let's feed Alex at all costs kind of like approach that maybe we had in the World Cup. So she's been cooking. Rose Lavelle, who you mentioned, also cooking. I mean,
yes,
she's still, for stretches, looks like the best player on the field by a good margin.
Yes.
So let's fucking go. Lynn Williams, who you put in your starting lineup, I thought she created all kinds of problems just with her energy, her runs, her like, like when a streaker is just running onto the field and like the security is just chasing them, and then like they do a couple loops and then it's a long time before they get tackled. Lynn Williams had definitely that kind of energy in the match. I mean, there was nothing Canada could do to kind of keep up with what she was doing, and then almost created some chances out of that. What would you think if we went with a very vet-heavy lineup and then maybe thought about Sophia Smith? When do we bring her in? Jaden Shaw, Trinity Rodman as kind of like maybe some change of paces, which could possibly sync up with like maybe a more defensive strategy. But I don't know. I think the vets have been really good, and I do kind of feel like their leadership might be pretty key here. So I don't know. Is that a strategy that might have some merit to it?
100%. Yeah, it absolutely has merits. I mean, I feel like any great coach, any great manager that you and I have paid attention to over the history of sports talk about that. I mean, you and I have watched an awful lot of basketball in our lives where it's like you take players out of the rotation. There's like a famous Pat Riley quote, play 8, trust 7, and like roll with 6 or something like that, like something to that effect. I butchered that. But thinking about the 5 players on a basketball court and your rotation there, I think there are a ton of merits to it. I'll raise my hand. I think she's done well. You raise a good point about the energy that Williams was able to bring as a super sub. I think she is good in that role. I am also just kind of in the tank for Lynn Williams. I think she's fucking awesome. I think I like the element that she has. I like her in the starting lineup. When I name that 11, the players you name though, I almost wonder, thinking about like what you could need later in the match, if you bring on a veteran, a World Cup hero like Lavelle late in the match, a World Cup hero like Alex Morgan late in the match, now you have somebody walking in there going, I can do this. Like I already know what I need to do. Now I'm a little bit of an older player. I get to go up against people with tired legs, but that does cut both ways because you are right. When you are bringing on Sophia Smith, if you're bringing on Jaden Shaw and Jaden Shaw is going up against defenders with tired legs, she might be frying them with her speed and abilities. Kilgore's got some decisions to make, man. I could see it go either way. I know that's a cop-out answer that's no good for sports radio. I'm supposed to yell at you and tell you, no, your way is wrong and my way could only be the correct way. But you know ball. So I would say I could see it happening. Start young, add experience, or start with experience and then add the fresh legs. Either way could work.
With regards to the old versus the young that you were mentioning, I sort of painted the picture of like what happens if we're too aggressive. We're down 2-0 after 10 or 15 minutes. Now, if you have Alex Morgan out there, you have Lynn Williams out there, you have Rose Lavelle out there, Lindsay Arant, like to your point, those are players that are not going to lose their shit down 2-0.
True.
Like some of these younger players, if we go super young, a 2-0 could get out of hand potentially.
True.
If people start to get a little bit frantic about it. So I think I would feel a lot more comfortable if we did fall behind with the vets. And then to your point, you bring in Shaw at 55 or 58, Smith, Rodman, and this is an impossible job for Twyla Kilgore to figure out exactly what to do here. Feels like there's no right answer, there's no wrong answer. Like it's just going to be shake up the letters, throw them out there, and we see what happens. Either way, it's going to be an incredible final. Let's pray for no rain and maybe a couple more guys with those squeegee mops that not sure exactly what the fuck they were doing. It struck me as odd. Sorry for this tangent, but it struck me as odd because like they're just like brushing it, and then they're just brushing water from this foot to like this foot.
It's insane. It was insane.
It's like, do they think this is working? It was just the stupidest thing. So let's get a clean game. Let's get a final, one for the ages. Let's make up for a couple of asterisks that we experienced on Wednesday night. And I don't know, man. I'm just pumped. It's going to be huge. Anything else you want to hit on the final?
I'm just so excited to watch it. It's a battle, like you mentioned, of two great teams. Hopefully the conditions don't screw it up. I mean, they're playing the match in Southern California, so it's not like this happens a lot. So hopefully we get a standard Southern California evening out of it. And you mentioned it's kind of an impossible job for Twyla Kilgore to kind of pick the team. Luckily for you and me, buddy, it's not an impossible job. If they win the game, then we can talk about what a genius she is and how we agree with everything. And if they lose the match, then we can talk about how all our subs were wrong and me and you knew totally better. So it is the perfect situation for a couple of schlubs like us to be like, I would have done this instead. Being able to play the result every time.
I'm becoming more and more of a fan of this U.S. women's national team. But with that said, I would definitely get a kick out of Kilgore trotting out your 11 and then U.S. losing the match.
Come on.
3-0.
Yeah, that's fair. You know what? It would take me a minute to see the comedic value of that, but yeah, that's fine.
Oh my God. Talk about a breakout video. If you enjoyed hanging out with us, subscribe. We're covering the sport every week here on Into the Channel, a podcast primarily about women's football. Earlier in the episode, we covered USA versus Canada and Brazil's big win over Mexico. And coming up, we're going to go into the news, talk a little Ajax, talk a little Braun versus UEFA. Kika Nazareth is back in a big fucking way. And of course, my Orlando pride sending shockwaves through the women's football world with their signing of a one Copper Queen, Baba Banda. So be sure to like if you liked and subscribe if you love the women's game as much as your boys do.
Twyla, I'll shoot you an email. We'll make sure that we get this shit right for Sunday. And then I'll give you all the credit once we win. We can do this. United, we stand. Divided, I'm just going to blame you. But it's fine. I'll see you after the match.